Well, you're still here with us on the AM show. We've got a conversation coming up. It's actually an assessment of how schools have coped with the virus. Benjamin Akapo visited the youngsters' school here in Kokomlemle, and here's his report.
It's been called the new normal, living in the midst of COVID-19. COVID-19 came, we saw it, we are battling it, and we shall conquer it, but not just yet. How have schools dealt with the COVID-19 situation in terms of parents, in terms of their children, the pupils, and even in terms of teachers, the teaching experience? We find out as we get into the Youngsters International School here in Kokomlemle. Come with me. It's been over a year now since COVID hit the entire world. And it's had quite an impact on the schooling community as well. But just how much of an impact? We interact right now with the headmaster of the Youngsters International School, William Osa J. Tell us briefly, what has the impact of COVID been on school life at the Youngsters International School?
Thank you. As usual, school life has changed drastically. Because usually when we come to school in the mornings, after observing silence period, we come out for morning assemblies. Now it's no longer there, and that is a challenge. Because there are some announcements, when you meet the entire school, you have to give it out, and it transcends, everybody gets it. But now you have to go around class by class to do that, and that is a bit of a challenge. Secondly, parents too are not allowed to even enter the classrooms to interact with teachers. And that one has also been of a great challenge. Now, when we go out for break, we cannot play around as we do all the time. And that one has impacted too negatively on us. For example, we have parents, they will not understand why they shouldn't even enter the compound. You try to explain to them, they won't budge. They will still want to do what the old things they do. And when you stand by it, they will think that you are just becoming too much. And that is of a bit of a challenge to us.
In terms of learning proper, what is the implication of COVID and all these restrictions? So what have they meant? How much of an impact have they had?
Thank you. Usually, we just ended our first term, and we have come. And going through their report cards and stuff like that, you will see that it has really worried us. Because most learners have lost it. We're trying as much as possible to bring them up, and it hasn't been easy at all. So, seriously speaking, it is a big challenge. Academically, it has taken the children aback, and you have to move in at a certain speed. And when you move in at that speed too, the child cannot move that speed, because you look at what the child lost, because second term, they didn't even complete. The whole of third term for a particular class was not completed. And so now the child has been promoted, mass promotion. They have to finish that of the second term, which they didn't finish, and the third term. And then they're in a new class. It is a problem.
How much of a problem has it been? How have you coped with online learning, for example?
Yes, when we started online, most of the children were joining us. A class of about 40, you have only about 3 people. And when you ask the parents, they will tell you that, look, they don't have the money to buy the gadgets. Even when they buy the gadgets, how to even buy data was a bit of a problem. So we did a little bit of the online thing, and then we switched to hard copy, where we printed questions, parents come, pick it up for their children. And we managed to actually make some gains in that field too. Yes.
Well, thank you for joining us. Your name?
Asante Emmanuel.
Asante Emmanuel. What do you teach at the Youngsters International School?
I teach English language.
How long have you been here?
Oh, for the past 5 years.
5 years. And what has it been like? I mean, handling all these children under COVID-19 and all the protocols to be observed. How has COVID impacted the learning, teaching experience?
The disease itself is quite an interesting one. And for that matter, when the school resumed earlier on, the attendance was not that encouraging, because the parents were kind of scared. The fear was inside and outside. You could feel the attendance telling it. So in that score, it didn't really impact well on the numbering. So their attendance was challenged. When it comes to the classroom itself, the kids having been informed of the kind of the extent of the fear that they came to school with, it tells a lot about how they will absorb learning, consume understanding, and then impact what they have understood on paper. So it was quite challenging handling them.
Do you feel it has had an impact on grades? At least we've spoken to one or two who have said that on the back of COVID-19, of course, the time they stayed at home and coming back and with masks and all of that, it's impacted their grades a bit. Do you see that?
Yes, I do. You know, the kids had, I could say clearly, they have some learning loss to COVID. Staying home for 1 year is really a loss to learning. The brain said that if it relaxes for a long time without reading or without knowledge acquisition, what you have actually accumulated, you are bound to forget if you don't do repetition in over reading what you have learned before. Because we know that repetition creates deep and lasting impression on the mind. So if what you have learned is not repeated, you are likely to forget them. So it really impacted negatively on their academic performance.
Now, finally, moving forward, what do you think are some of the things that ought to be done, ought to be put in place generally to ensure that we can, well, say goodbye to COVID and also ensure that in our learning institutions we get back to what we knew before so that children are not left out, they don't lose out?
Like you rightly said, follow the protocols is one of the key things that we ought to enforce, not only with the kids, but those facilitators among us. So that at least, the saying goes that cleanliness next to godliness. To be able to stay away from disease, you have to go by whatever it is for you to do to stay away from that disease. So every disease and what you're supposed to do. So if you have to follow through with all the precautionary measures, we will say bye-bye to COVID.
Well, COVID has had its impact, and of course, children in schools have not been left out. And Ijilao is actually going to share her experience. Ijilao, how old are you?
I am 6 years old.
You're 6 years old. Which class are you in?
Class 1.
Class 1. And all through this time of COVID-19, how has it been like for you? Have you liked coming to school with COVID-19 and wearing a mask and all this?
Yes. Yes.
You have? So are you okay with wearing a mask all the time?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes.
Why do you think so?
Because sometimes I will get tired of wearing it, then I will remove it. And some small time I will wear it back again.
But you know the mask keeps you safe, right?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you feel when you're not able to play with your friends so much because of COVID-19?
I think someone will get one COVID-19 when someone cuts on the other person.
Okay. So you try to stay too close to your friends so you don't get COVID?
Yes.
Have you ever heard of anyone who has got COVID? Have you seen anyone who has got COVID? Do you know what happens to them?
Yes, they will die.
They will die. That's a very smart one, Ejilao, who's only 6 years old and in class 1. I wish you all the best, okay?
Okay.
What's your name?
My name is Elsie Adufo Asapon.
Elsie, which class are you in?
I'm in class 4.
Class 4. Great. You've been back in school and you've had to wear a mask because of COVID and all of that. How has COVID-19 changed your life in school?
It has made playing hard, and if your teacher is saying something, you'll hardly hear it. So it makes us fail in exams. And when we are working, we have to work in twos and separates.
So it's made it difficult learning because sometimes you can't even hear the teacher well, and it affects your grades and exams.
Yes.
How about your relations with your friends? How has COVID impacted that? Are you still able to play like before?
No, we are not even supposed to hold hands and hug each other like first. Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I feel very sad and bad.
If you could wish COVID away, if you could get COVID to go away, would you do that?
Yes, I will start everything I used to do.
What do you think do you have any other siblings who are in school?
Yes, yes.
Even at home, how has COVID impacted, your relations?
Even though we are siblings, we cannot hug and laugh with each other and hug. We need to social distance with each other.
What's your name?
Treasure David Lamte.
Churchill David Lamte.
Treasure David Lamte.
Treasure David Lamte. Which class are you in?
Class 5.
Okay. Treasure, how has COVID changed your life, especially in school?
Not much. Like it has sometimes been disturbing my work with class, but not much.
Some of your friends have said that COVID has impacted their grades because sometimes they can't even hear the teacher well because of the mask and all of that. Is it same for you?
Yes, sometimes.
Have your grades dropped since COVID came and you returned to school?
No.
It's pretty much the same.
Yes.
What would you say? How do you feel generally about COVID-19? And what are your expectations? Would you have COVID go away?
Yes, I would have it go away. So that this world will be a free world and there will be nothing such as COVID and no diseases in the world. So that everybody will be free of harm.
But diseases have been with us practically throughout. We cannot wish all of them away. So in the meantime, we have to observe the protocols, wear our masks, wash our hands, sanitize, and all of that. And you do that always, don't you?
Yes.
Well, keep it up. Mr. Lukman has 3 children here at the Youngsters International School in Kukumlimle. But how exactly has COVID changed his life as a parent and that of his children? We find out. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lukman.
And thank you too for the opportunity. The first thing is that parenting has changed drastically, primarily because if you are a working parent, now you have to tangle between working from home has come to stay, and then parenting equally is always here with parents. So the challenge is that, the stress has increased in the sense that you always have to harmonize working from home and taking care of children. Initially when school were on full-fledged, so you could make time while the children are in school, you could make time for yourself. But now, even children are back in school, but the challenges is still continuing. And then the reason is that you have to always come to pick them because of to try to avoid try to instill social distancing. Because once they close from school, you see them mingling with friends, with other strangers as well, which does not augur well for COVID prevention. So in that instance, so you see that you always have to find additional time, to harmonize with your work from your office and then taking care of the kids as well.
Financially, what has been the impact of COVID-19 on you as a parent in terms of dealing with your children?
It has its own financial ramification because now you have to spend money buying masks, you have to spend money buying sanitizers, which the school does not provide, and then which are additional resources that could have been used to help the advancement of the education of the children. So these are some of the issues that we parents are battling with.
At some point, finally, I know online studies came up and all of that. How was that for you? How was that experience?
Well, financial as well, you have to buy, personally, I have to buy a laptop. I have to buy 1 laptop and 2 notepads for my kids. Okay, so you could see the financial implications. And that's aside, once you are in class online, so once the class goes off, the children hasn't gotten that technical knowledge. So you have to run quickly from whatever you are doing. Even if you have a meeting online, you have to run quickly to come and then reschedule the child for another lessons. So these are the issues. But in all, we say that we have to learn from the good that COVID has brought us. in that, well, it has come to stay. Some of these issues has come to stay. So what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back, fold our arms, parents, the school, the PTA, and sit and say, well, it's now a new norm, so we have to go with it. So we have to think faster, because learning, as it is now, you can learn everywhere. The normal brick and mortar, maybe with time we have to do away with it. So how are we going to, so how is the government coming in? So these are some of the issues that we have to, visit and see the way forward for our children and for we, the parents, as well.
Thank you very much for interacting with us, Mr. Lukman.
Thank you.
Mrs. Hammond, as a parent here at this school, how has life changed for you on the back of COVID-19?
COVID-19 has changed my life a lot, because at first I don't like using car because of the fuel. So we use one car with my husband and then the kids. He drops us in the morning, and then in the evening he picks us. So I'll come and pick the children in the afternoon with the passenger car. But now with the COVID-19, I have to use my own car because I'm scared of the passenger car. So it has changed my life a lot. And then the expenses, due to the COVID-19, we have to be using nose masks every day. We buy nose masks every day. And then the sanitizer, and then the tissue every day. And then even the children to mingle with their friends. So I have to come early and pick them so that they will not play to go far beyond their distance. So I may say COVID-19 has changed me. And then the online learning too, I have to get Wi-Fi in the shop so that they can do the online learning, because the data, I couldn't bear it. So at least it has changed my life.
So finally, on that bit you said about some of the children not being able to mingle and all of that, we know it is part of the growth of children. It also impacts them in certain ways. Do you think this has affected your children in any way, not being able to mingle as freely, to play and all that?
Oh yes, it has affected them, because at first I don't let them use phone. But now, because I don't allow them to play a lot with their friends, I have to get them phones so that they'll use it to play and then at least learn with it. So, I know as kids, they sometimes go beyond their limits. You may think that they are learning with their phone, but before you realize it's different thing altogether. So at least.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hammond, for interacting with us. For you as a parent, how much has changed owing to COVID-19?
Well, since COVID came into this country, our educational system has changed in such a way that the government allowed the children to go and stay at home for barely over a year. And you see, and without not organizing any extra classes for them. So when the children came back from school, their curriculum has changed, and the teachers need to load them with courses. You see, some of the things that we were supposed to learn in school when the COVID had not yet incepted, now the teachers are making them learn all those things. A typical example is that the free SHS system, when students will go to school for about 1.5 weeks and come and stay home for about 3 months, 4 months, and even when they go to school, they cannot cover all the syllabus that they are supposed to cover. Example is last week when one of the schools in the Volta region vacated. I got to know they spent 1 month, 2 weeks in school, and per the month syllabus that we were supposed to cover, they were able to cover only one subject, and they vacated and they came home. Now, when we are bringing down it to our primary schools, it's the same thing. For this school, I think the teachers are trying their possible best to catch up, and I'll give kudos to this school, because when they were in the house, especially my kids, the school organized this online classes for the students. So they were teaching the students whilst they were in the house. So I think COVID has dealt very badly with the students, but for the youngsters, I think the teachers have really done really well. Yeah.
How many children do you have in this school, and how has it been like financially coping with all of them, online studies and all of that? It's been expensive, hasn't it?
Really, I have 3 kids here, 2 boys and a girl. And when they were in the house, in fact, when the school introduced those things, I personally came to the headmaster because he has been a friend. So I asked him, what are we doing as a parents? Are we paying fees? He said, no. We, the parents, we have to take cost of the bundle that we use for the children, and the school will take care of the rest, which they did. And every day they have been consistent with their schools till schools reopened. Yeah. So I think I'll give a plus to the Youngster School, and I'll encourage them to keep it up, because it is no other school that you have it. And I think paying for the fees and everything is moderate. I think the school authorities understand the parents when the parents have concerns concerning challenges of paying for their fees. And I think they make the parents pay it by installments. So I think it is a plus for the school, and I'll urge them to continue. And once we are in the COVID era and we know everything has gone backwards, school fees is a challenge now. I'll urge them to dialogue with the parents, for the parents to know how best they are, so that we all together make this school a very formidable one.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond, for interacting with us. And this is the real story of COVID-19 and how it has impacted parents, pupils, and even teachers. This is the face of COVID-19. Benjamin Akako for Joy News.
Well, so that's the reality for most parents, school fees. To also think about the fact that the schools went on a 2-week break and they have to return and pay the same amount of school fees. So painful for a lot of parents to deal with. Lots of changes